My journey started when I was a child, right? When I was probably 10 or 11 years old, just being inspired to draw by a friend who transferred into our school, and he was amazing. And we became friends, and I wanted to draw like he drew. I kind of went on this path of like really trying to be a better artist just from practice. I studied from comic books and really got into studying the figure, inspired by all the Renaissance masters and that path, into figurative art. And it's something that I did through the teens and into college even, but I didn't go to art school. I studied engineering. Did art on the side, always did art on the side. It was very good, but I was kind of using both halves of my brain. Eventually I got into computer graphics because kind of the engineering is segued into that, like creating visual medium, kind of quite technically to start with. But as the tools became more powerful, it became a way for me to make art digitally. And then eventually these tools became very sophisticated and very powerful for making art, not just talking like Photoshop, but also like ZBrush, Maya, and even nowadays the rendering capabilities have just kind of exploded. And so like you can do amazing stuff. So along the way, I continually improved and practiced, mostly self-taught. I studied for a little while in Florence at a place called the Florence Academy of Art, and was exposed to kind of this very realist, kind of traditional training, which was good, but also in some ways it was kind of counter to how I wanted to work, which was very constructionally, like understanding what I drew, not just drawing from sight. Actually in Florence I started to study anatomy as well, and I quickly became my tool, the thing that I would kind of get better at and use to make my work more powerful, more solid. And then I started to teach anatomy. And over the years, the depth of my understanding has increased 100 times just from teaching and kind of helping people understand it as well, right? And so kind of where I'm at right now, I feel like it's the point where I can give back to a lot of people the lessons that I've learned and help them along the way, because everybody's somewhere along that trajectory. And I'm not finished learning at all. I always learn things. I was giving a workshop at a studio just 2 weeks ago, and some little idea in my mind was like new from having to explain it in a certain way. So the depth of my understanding increases giving back, which is kind of really interesting in its own way. It's not expected, right? But really, like, and it's not, I'm not the only one to say this, but people who teach, I think, would almost all say that is the case. Like, you have to understand your material so intrinsically, like so thoroughly, to present it to somebody who doesn't know. You have to be able to really simplify it to its essence as when necessary, and then build it up to the complexity. So you have to understand it all. And often when you're just a working artist, you just understand what's necessary to do the thing you have to do. But when you have to, again, talk to people who are working artists, have all these questions, have all these different perspectives, that's when you have to have like this breadth of understanding that really allows you to formulate it in a way that they understand. So literally, you just have to really deepen your knowledge. And every single time it happens to me, like I've done hundreds of workshops at studios all over the world, and I'm always shocked that, wow, there's a new little thing. I mean, to me it's still exciting, but to somebody else it's kind of quite, it's maybe trivia, but it's still fascinating. And so there is definitely learning that happens when you teach. Don't be fooled, it always happens. So it's a hard question because my inspiration comes from a lot of different places, and I think that's not unique at all to me, but I get inspiration from design, designers, Art Nouveau, Art Deco stuff, like people who simplify forms. I get inspiration from comic book artists, illustrators. I have books on graffiti artists, people who are just doing their thing in a style that's unique and fresh. Like all those guys inspire me in their own way. Like I appreciate it all, and there's little nuggets. I mean, I'm not copying a designer style, but I'm inspired by how they can keep their vision unique and singular. And so there's lessons to learn across the spectrum. Like even if you're a visual artist, like you can learn from architecture, you can learn from design, you can learn so many places, nature, all these things just have their own forms that are inspiring if you look for them. Good question. What's the biggest struggle? Like being an artist is always a struggle. I think that's probably, if you ask that question to everybody, everybody will say it's just a struggle being an artist, because you have always a vision. That's of when you're doing a piece of work, you have a vision that's great. In your mind, you can see it. You can see what you want to make, and then the execution often is not as, it doesn't come out as you want it to come out. There's accidents, there's things that happen along the way, and there's constraints. And so there's that gap between like what you want to make and what you have made. And it often is very good what you make. If you do it to the best of your ability, it comes out really. To somebody else, they wouldn't know the difference. But maybe to you, you're like, oh, I wish it was better. Or, that's one thing. I mean, that's not my greatest frustration, but it's also, for me, it's choosing what direction to work into next, like project by project selection, because I have quite diverse interests. Stepping back from the actual execution of the work, it's choosing the how to spend your time, right? When you're an artist, you only have so much time, and when you have, I mean, a lot of people have are blessed with like singular focus on a particular style and a particular direction. But if that's that, then mine is like 4, right? And that's hard for me. And one day I will be sculpting, and then one day I'll be doing photographs, and then maybe next day I'll be doing something more technical, some of my kind of explorations into, some of these new fields that are out there, like deep learning and stuff. So I'll be maybe writing some Python code. So often my psyche is fractured in a number of different directions. And so literally it's choosing what to do next, because they are all super interesting and I see a lot of potential in each direction, but I think it's necessary as well, just the way that my brain is structured. I have to kind of do both to be satisfied. Sometimes I just wait for somebody else to direct me to what to do next, if that answers it.